Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the pleasure to welcome Miss Helen Bond and Mr. Fode Camara. Miss Helen, she is the executive director of the non-profit organization called Motherland Rhythm Benkadi Project.
Right. Motherland Rhythm Community Benkadi Project.
Thank you for the clarification. Miss Helen, Mr. Fode, thank you very much for joining me on the Human Rights Tree.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So before we start, basically I invite you under the umbrella art and activism. But before we start tackling the subject, I just want to know a little bit about your background. And I can start with Miss Helen.
Okay. Well, so my background is I actually worked in the corporate world in technology as a project manager. And I also worked with not-for-profit organizations. So I worked for the Kennedy Foundation in Washington, D.C., and I worked with Special Olympics. And then I also worked for the FBI, and I worked for the American Dental Association was my recent job. And before the ADA, I worked for Baxter Healthcare. And so my professional career was specialized in IT and project management, which is basically deploying projects around the country. And on the side, I played djembe. And ultimately, that led me to go to Guinea to learn more about the djembe. And then when I came back, I was in a good position to leave the ADA, the American Dental Association. And I started teaching classes as my full-time job. It was a part-time thing before.
I see. Mr. Fode, can you tell us a little bit about you? Est-ce que tu peux nous dire un peu, nous parler de toi?
Ok, je m'appelle Fode Camara. Je suis guinéen. Je suis artiste percussionniste aussi en Guinée. C'est par rapport à ça que je me suis rencontré avec Helen. Donc, je commence à venir ici 2006. Donc, c'est à cause de ça on s'est connus. Donc, je viens ici, je travaille, je me retourne en Guinée.
So, based on your background, my knowledge is that drumming have a big part in you meeting together.
Right.
Miss Helen, how that journey started? Can you take us back to when did you meet drumming, and how was the process of learning and how that led you to where we are today?
Okay, so let's see, 26. So it was about 33 years ago when I first was exposed to a djembe, and I wanted to know more about it, where it came from. And so that led me to travel to Guinea in 2001. And so when I traveled to Guinea, my friend who also co-founded this, I traveled in December and she went in January. And so when I went to Guinea, I went there for a study program, and I was studying with Famadou Konate. And Amy also went there to study with Famadou. And so when I went to Guinea, first of all, I was in love with the traditional music. I loved how the music came together and the rhythms laid on top of each other. I just loved it. And I'm half Iranian, and so I also played the doumbek, and I played a lot of other instruments, percussion instruments, but in the end, I really loved the West African. And I made a choice that I could either know a little bit about a lot of different drums or really learn a specific instrument, which led me to decide to focus on the djembe. And so then I traveled to Guinea, and I spent 3 weeks at that time studying the music. And then, of course, meeting the people. And I was just, blown away by the kindness, the generosity, and the hospitality that everyone displayed towards me. A stranger, people just took me in immediately. And I was also struck by the disparity, the poverty, the issues that people struggled with, and was very frustrated by that disparity that I saw, but fell in love with the people, and the music was extraordinary. And so I came back home, and then my friend Amy was going to Guinea, and so I met with her and helped her pack. And then she went, and she had ready-made friends, because the people I met, I told them my friend is coming. So they all embraced her as well. And when she came back, we talked about our experience, and we kept thinking, is there something we can do? Like, can we do something? And we eventually, through our teacher, asked about the village, and that, is there something we could do maybe to help? What does the village want? And the elders of the village came back to us and said, we want a better future for our children, and we need help with a school. And so that was our first project. They already had a school, but it wasn't big enough. And so we started, we had formed a band, we were practicing, and whenever we would perform, we would take a portion of what we would earn in our performance and put it aside to save money to help build this additional schoolhouse. And then we talked about our idea, and people started making donations. My students started making donations. And so then in 2002, by that time, I left my corporate job and I went back to Guinea, and we started construction of the schoolhouse. So it just kind of grew.
I will come to the specific of the organization and the project, but I will talk to Mr. Fode. Usually in Africa, the people who play drum, instruments, and sings are part of the griot family. Mr. Fode, are you part of the griot family? Je disais que... Ok, non. Donc tu comprends. J'ai pas besoin de traduire. So how playing drum came to your life? When did you start saying, I love these instruments and I want to learn to play it and I want to be percussionist? Mr. Fode.
Cet instrument, j'ai commencé à apprendre ça avec mes amis, puisque avant moi, je ne fais pas je ne joue pas l'instrument. Je fais la construction. Je travaille la construction. Après, avec les amis, donc, des fois, tu sais, en Afrique, tu sais pas tout le temps avoir l'opportunité d'avoir le travail. Donc, le moment que j'ai pas le travail à faire avec la construction, avec mes amis, ils commencent à me prendre de sortir ensemble. Donc, il y a quelques fêtes. On commence à jouer avec mes amis ensemble. C'est comme ça que je me suis commencé à apprendre cet rythme mandingue. Donc, avec le moment aussi, le tambour aussi a beaucoup de succès. On reçoit beaucoup d'étrangers qui venaient de différentes parties dans le monde, qui venaient notre maître Famoudou Konaté. Beaucoup de gens venaient sur lui. Donc, c'est comme ça que je me suis intégré pour la musique africaine.
You want to translate, I kind of can resume what he said, Miss Helen.
Okay, so Fode basically said that he started work in construction, but his friends would invite him to come play. And so he would play along with his friends. And at that time, the djembe had a lot of success all over the world. And so a lot of foreigners were traveling to Guinea. So he, with his friends, played at a lot of festivals and then met a lot of the students who came. And he didn't mention this, but he lived in the neighborhood right next to Bamadou Konate. And then really the reason why he came over here was I organized his North American tour in 2006. And so in 2006, Fode and Bamadou came over together, and then we toured around Canada and the US. And so before then, we were doing the work in the village, but people started hearing more about it outside of foreigners that I met in Guinea, and also people in other countries, you know, around the world who traveled there or who we met on tour.
Hearing your story and reading a little bit through your website about your work and in social media, what is really fascinating about your story is you fell in love with drumming and djembe, and you went to the roots where the instrument come from. But you didn't just contain of learning how to play djembe and use it for your own sake. You also made observation that despite the culture is rich, people are not very wealthy and the poverty, and you try basically to use your skills in djembe and make difference. Why you decided that you wanted to create a non-profit organization?
I think for me, there are many people who travel there and see what's happening. I think, you know, I had great influence by my parents, and my parents have done a lot quietly to help a lot of people in different modes of life. And I think it's just like something I was born to. But also, when I went to Guinea, you know, I just went there to learn the music. And in the end, I always tell people who come to Guinea with me that you go for the music, but in the end, you're going to learn more about yourself than anything. And, you know, you learn what can you do when you're in a situation that you're not happy with, or you want it to be improved. And for me, I felt like, you know, I'm no one important and big, but I felt like, you know, we can do something. It may be a small thing, but we can do something. And when, you know, I came home and would talk to like-minded friends, we felt like we could make a difference. We're not rich and famous, but we have a desire to make an improvement. And that, you know, it was a little thing. And so what happened is I became good friends. And when you have a friend and you know they have a problem, you're going to want to try to help solve that problem. I may not know about the problem right away until the friends talk about the problem. And so for me, it's really important with our organization that we're not about like, you need to fix this. It's all about what people say to me, like, we have this problem. Do you have any ideas? Or can you help with this? One of the things that bothered me is that I could go to Guinea and afford to pay for bottled water, but my friends could not. And I didn't have enough money to buy everybody bottled water. And that drove me nuts. You know, I couldn't stand it. And I also found, like, if I went to a market and I wanted to buy something, like if there was an avocado, I couldn't buy it and then not think, well, maybe my friends want one, but they might not have the money for the avocado. So a lot of times for me, if I had enough to buy for all of us to share it together, I would do it. But if I only had enough for me, I would let it go. I would think, I don't need this item.
After
And so
all,
that's just my way.
I see. After all, you decided to create a non-profit organization and call it Motherland, if I'm not, Benkadi Project.
Yeah.
Why the name?
So the name started out Benkadi Project, which was easy. We had talked with our friends, and it basically meant if we live together, you know, everything is better if we do things together. And so to live together is good. And so that was important. But then when we decided to be an official, you know, 501c3 and file the government paperwork, we wanted a name that could be in English and recognized. And so we created Motherland Rhythm Community. And community because one person can only do a little, but in a group of people, even if you're not, you know, all wealthy or of means, a group of people can accomplish things. So we felt community. And then rhythm, this friendship developed through the love of the music. And so that was a part of it. And then we say Mother Earth and Motherland, you know, thinking of the continent of Africa as the motherland. And then also the importance of women and the mothers, you know, all of us are here because of a mother. And so that's how the name came to be. We felt it was a name that, you know, could pull people in, and it was very inclusive.
Thank you. Mr. Fode, where are you from specifically in Guinea? What is the name of your village?
My village is Bramaya.
Bramaya?
Yeah.
So where is Bramaya located in Guinea?
Bramaya, c'est à côté en allant vers Bokeh. Vous connaissez le nom de Bokeh?
Oui.
Ok, donc quand vous quittez de Brika en allant vers Bokeh et Fria, c'est notre Califour, c'est Tanene, c'est le village, notre village, la route, c'est là-bas, à Tanene.
Je vois.
Le président Lansana Conté, ancien président.
De la Guinée, oui.
Guinée, oui. Le même village.
Oh, it's okay. So all your project is located at that village, or you are reaching out to different areas in Guinea?
So we started the work in Sangbarala village, which is outside of Karusa. And that's where the music comes from, the specific where our teacher was from that area. And then our other teacher, which, you know, is Nansati Keita, he's also from that area. And so that's a village that we started. And so the first thing we did was build that additional schoolhouse. And we've repaired wells in that village. And then, of course, we got to know the musicians in the neighboring village. And so I've been going to Guinea for 23 years.
Wow.
And the last, I think 9 or 10 years now, I've been going twice a year. And so I've gotten to know a lot of people in that region, in the Hamana region. And so we also helped a neighboring village, and I studied with the drummer from that village, Sekou Koundé, and we helped them repair their wells. And so we've done a lot of work out in the village area. But when we started our biosand water filter project, the clean water project, we started that in Cemetery, which is part of Conakry, but it's like Dibrika, right?
Yeah, that's a
Like
Conakry.
Conakry,
Conakry.
and then we have a fabrication site in Dibrika. And so we started the water filters in Cemetery, and then everyone in that area near, like the neighbors, that was our first deployment in 2012.
So when you decided to create Motherland Written Benkadi project, based on your rules and regulations, what are the mission and the goals you have as an organization?
So we are an arts and humanitarian NGO. So our goal is to share the art from Guinea, so from the source of the music that I play. And so bringing Fode over is a component of that, to have people meet him, actually meet someone from the country. Fode also makes drums, so they're meeting someone who can speak directly to the people about his life. And then a humanitarian organization, which leads to all the work that we've done, building school, digging wells. We've also built a women's market in Sangbarala village. That was a huge project that we did. And so we're also about education, food sustainability, female empowerment. So those are all of our key factions. And the Biosam water filter is part of WASH, which is a huge effort to get, to have dignity, to have access to clean water and toilets. So when we built the women's market, we also built a toilet house. We built a La Maison de Jeunesse, a young people's house. We built toilets with it as well.
It looked like you are promoting the culture, but in some time you are getting involved in humanitarian work, furthering education, bringing clean water to the population, and trying to empower women in those villages. Talking about culture, I will ask question to Mr. Fode. Mr. Fode, can you tell us a little bit about your ethnic background and your cultural background as a Guinean?
Come to a Susu.
Je suis Soussou
Oui.
de Bramaya.
Donc,
mon papa, c'est Soussou, ma mère, Soussou. Donc, on n'est pas loin de la grande capitale, à peu près 3 heures de voyage de Conakry. Donc, j'ai deux frères. Donc, tous les 2 frères là, ils sont à Conakry. On était 4, mais mon grand frère est décédé. Donc, c'est moi qui remplace de mon grand frère. Donc, après ça aussi, mon papa est décédé. Et ma mère aussi est décédée. Donc, je suis une responsable grande famille. Je suis marié en Guinée. J'ai 4 enfants.
Je vois.
Donc,
tu viens de l'ethnie Soussou et tu as adopté la culture aussi Soussou. And Miss Helen, your first project happened, I think, in Haute Guinea when you took. So, Mr. Fode, do you by promoting the culture, the Soussou culture, did you also promote the Mandenke culture?
Notre travail pour le filtre, on travaille pour la Guinée.
Oui.
Donc, notre travail n'a pas de distinction avec Malinké, Soussou, Fula. on est toujours la même communauté. Donc, quand elle a commencé de faire ce travail pour aider la communauté, premier, ils ont commencé à Haute-Guinée. Et donc, elle a beaucoup fait là-bas. Donc, c'est quand on a commencé le programme des filtres, ça aussi, on a commencé ça à Conakry. Puis c'est le travail des filtres, le déplacement pour aller à l'intérieur, ça va nous coûter très cher. On ne peut pas sortir dans le pays ici, on n'a pas une grande moyen pour sortir. Avec le déplacement, le matériel qu'on travaille, on ne peut pas retrouver ça en Haute-Guinée. On a essayé de faire ça aussi en Haute-Guinée, mais on n'a pas pu faire le moyen pour tout les frais. Donc, c'est à Conakry, on s'est concentré là-bas avec quelques villages à côté de Next Conakry, de Brika, avec différents villages à côté de nous. On peut se déplacer, moins de déplacements. Donc, on aide beaucoup de communautés, beaucoup de différents villages aussi. Puis chaque région s'est mélangée. Il y a beaucoup de différentes ethnies qui sont ensemble.
Affectés par les projets.
Projet exact.
Even when he's talking about that, when we first started doing the filter, we had a group of friends we were working with, and we found that we needed 7 different languages to give families filters. And always within our group, we had someone who could speak the language to the families. So we had people who were from the forest region. We had someone who could speak with them. So even in that area of the town that we started, we needed 7 different languages to give the filters out to our neighbors.
I see. Let's talk about implementing a project. Can you just take us to the process? How do you start? Where do you start? And how, often cultures are different. When you come up with idea, can you tell us how do you implement that idea in the village?
So for me, it needs to start with a connection, right? A good relationship. And so what's different from me and maybe other organizations, that I'm the same person for 23 years, that many people who make our filters with us now, some of them knew me when they were 5 years old. So that is, and I always learned, you make friends with children. Like I learned most of what I know about Guinea in the beginning from children. And so I spent a lot of time with children. So the first thing is a connection, just a relationship. And the next thing is that they know what they need. I don't know what they need. And so they came to me. I have access. Right today, the technology, like the internet, is more available to everyone. But 23 years ago, it was not. And so I had access to technology. I could do research. And I found, I didn't create the biosand water filters. I found the organization that created it out of Calgary, Canada. And then I read the documentation. And then with my college students, because I teach at Lake Forest College, with my college students, they were interested and wanted to learn. So we had a miniature one, and we put it together here in the States, and then went to Guinea to try to make a bigger one. So the first thing is connection. The next thing is that they know their needs, and I just help them. And so I was also I could help with funding, like try to get donations. So they have all the desire to do the work. They lack technology and funding. Technology, I'm sorry. And technology and funding. Those are the 2 components they lack. And then some of it, education. And so we went there and we taught them, and we were learning at the same time because we were reading and doing it. And so that's really how you get things done. The people have to want it. And so once we started doing this, and in the beginning, people didn't know the water was dirty. They thought it looks clean, it is clean. And then once we gave the filters, they learned like immediately the water's 70% cleaner. In 2 weeks, it's 98.9% clean because a bacteria grows that cleans it even further. And so all we needed to do was give some families these filters. And in the beginning, we were begging them to take, come. We were asking people to come and people wouldn't come. We'd like, go, come, And once they got them, they said they went from cramps, stomachache, and diarrhea 2 to 3 times a week to none. And so we no longer had to sell the idea. Once people heard about it, then, in Guinea, it's quick. Word of mouth is very quick. And so that's how it grew.
I really, agree with your approach. Often people know what they want. And in many cases, there are people who basically have issue with how some non-profit organization approach African problems in the ground. They don't often ask what they need. They just say, you need this and we have the solution. And I think your approach is quite a little bit different because you go over there with a listening ear, and I believe that things truly make difference. Going to Guinea, trying to implement, help people, learning the culture, educating people, bringing cleaning water. What challenges do you face sometime on that path to implementing your goals?
So our challenges today are different from when we first started. Okay. And so because I've been going so long and, I didn't know any French when I first went, so I picked it up from the road. And of course, you have to be able to speak a little bit in the local languages and at least know how to greet and thank people, in the local language. So culturally, there is a challenge because in the very, very beginning, a long time ago, 20 years ago, when I had ideas, they would say to me, you think like a man. And I would go, no, I don't. This is how women think.
Okay.
And so that was one issue, but that didn't take long to overcome because I don't give up quickly. I don't give up very easily. And so in the beginning, when I talked with Fode, you said, oh, I don't think it can work, right? Yeah. When I first told him, he's like, oh, I don't think it can work. And I was like, I think it can. We're going to try it, right? So now when I have an idea, everyone listens right away, right? Instead of, and another challenge I had in the beginning was people would say, je connais, before I explained anything. People always were like, I know. And I said, don't tell me you know when you don't know, right? Like be open. Don't say I know or don't rush to do it. And I know it's because they want to jump in and get involved. And so it's, they had to learn a level of patience, but then I also had to learn to be patient because I come from a different work ethic in art and, culture. I grew up in the corporate, I worked in the corporate world and I had crazy deadlines and I had to meet those. And this is basically working with people from a country that has endemic unemployment. People want to work, but there is no work. And so they don't, like when I was a kid, I learned work. And so they don't get the opportunity to learn working for a paycheck, right? Like a job, as opposed to doing chores around the house. And so it took patience from me, and I have a board, and they're very good because they know I can get things done, but they'll tell me, you know, it's okay, take your time. Whereas sometimes I'm like, I want to do this many by this time. And I've learned, you know, I have to relax and adjust to the culture and be patient. And, you know, in our corporate world, we have a lot of meetings. And also over in Guinea, when there are issues, they have meetings. And so I've had to adjust to what meetings are over there. But I do love, because everyone, when there is a meeting, everyone speaks. You know, there's an opportunity where in the meeting, they'll say, does anyone else have anything to add? And then, you know, we clear it. So those things, those were the challenges in the beginning. We've all, like, they've learned how to work like Monday through Friday, a regular schedule. Now our challenges are material.
I see.
We have a really hard time getting some supplies that we need in Guinea. Like right now, we make covers for our filters. And Fode was telling me that the metal worker can't find the metal we need.
I see. So your actual challenges are based on material. We kind of running out of time. And I feel like I will reach out again and talk more about your work, because I feel like people need to hear about your work and support as much they can. Miss Helen and Mr. Fode, merci beaucoup pour votre temps.